The Cubs 8-6, and in Scottsdale they beat the San Diego Padres 7-4. 6 wins this week for the San Francisco Giants with 1 tie. Pretty impressive comebacks today, no question about that. We'll talk about both these games, and let's just talk about this one in Mesa because it was a wild one. Landon Roop starting for the San Francisco Giants. He went into that game pitching 8 1/3 innings, 1 hit only, with no earned runs, with 11 strikeouts, but he had a hard day in Mesa today. He went 3 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, no walks, 3 Ks. Gave up Kyle Turner's first home run in a Chicago Cub uniform. Chicago Cubs have been playing extremely well this spring. They were 10-3 going into this game, but the San Francisco Giants were down 6-3 going into the top of the 9th inning. 5 runs they scored to win this game 8-6. 8 runs, 12 hits, 1 error for the Giants. 6 runs, 13 hits for the Cubs with no errors. Some good days. Casey Schmidt is really playing well. He goes 2 for 3 today in Mesa, hitting his 3rd home run. And in 25 at-bats, he's got 8 hits. 6 of them have been extra base hits. Like I said, he hit his 3rd home run of this spring. Wade Jr. also had a solo home run, his 2nd. And a couple rookies, which is really cool because you get a lot of these young kids coming over from the minor leagues. That happened today in Scottsdale. Averson Arteaga, a 21-year-old shortstop from Venezuela, hit a solo home run in that 9th inning. And Sabin Savalas, he's been with the big team. He's been coming over for some A games, a 22-year-old that came over in a Jorge Soler trade from the Atlanta Braves. He ended up hitting a 3-run jack to take the lead for the Giants, and they win that 8-6. Joey LaCasey came in through a 1/3 of an inning. He gave up a hit. Tyler Rogers gave up a couple hits, gave up a run in 1 inning. Tristan Beck had a nice 1-2-3 inning. Randy Rodriguez threw 1 inning, giving up 2 hits, but he punched out 2. Harris, another minor leaguer, came over, gave up a 1 inning, 2 hits and a walk, but no runs. Kaiwang Tang ended up going 1-2-3 in the 9th inning, and the Giants come out of Mesa with a win. Very impressive win for a lot of young players getting the opportunity to play in this game. And we talk about some of the regulars. Christian Koss with another nice game. He went 2 for 2 with a double. Tyler Fitzgerald also had a double and an RBI. But when you come back against Mesa, in Mesa, I should say, at Sloan Park, and you end up beating a tough team with the Cubs, the minor leaguers came through, and I think Bob Melvin, as well as many of the coaches, were very impressed with that. Landon Roop just having a tough time today. His first bad outing when you start looking at what he's done, and I told you the numbers in the beginning. He went 8 1/3 going into this game with only giving up 1 hit and 11 strikeouts. So, a tough outing, but he will come back, no question about it. He is also fighting for that 5th starting spot for the San Francisco Giants. Now you go back to Scottsdale, and Jordan Hicks was the starter. He got a little trouble in the 2nd inning, but he got out of it at the 3rd inning, got a chase. 1st inning, ended up walking Rosario, got out of that inning very unscathed. The 2nd inning, got 2 pop-ups, and then he had an infield hit and a ball that got through the infield, and he punched out McCoy to get out of the 2nd inning. 3rd inning is when he really got in a jam. Ended up giving an infield hit, and then Rosario punched one through the right side. Connor Joe ended up hitting a double, and Yuri Gurriel hit a double, and all of a sudden he was in trouble. He ends up walking Diaz, and they took him out of the game, but he was going to come back in this game. This is what I really like about spring training, especially the starting pitchers getting their work in, getting their pitches up, and that's what they wanted to do. J.D. Martinez was talking about getting over 60 pitches today. So they took Hicks out, and they brought a youngster in. And what a time. Ryan Watson, a young right-hander, comes in and gets a 1-2-3 inning, and he comes in with 1st and 2nd. With nobody out. He punches out the first hitter, Omelis, and he gets 2 pop-ups and comes out of the inning. And boy, if that chest wasn't out strong for that young right-hander, it was an excellent outing for him. Jordan Hicks goes back out of the next inning, gets the first couple guys out. But I think the best pitcher of today was Spencer Bivens when you look at what Spencer's been doing, this was his fourth time in games, and going into it, he had thrown 5 innings, 4 hits, only 1 earned run, no walks, 5 strikeouts, and he was impressive today, going 2 1/3, giving up 3 singles, no runs, 3 Ks, and no walks. He throws strikes. This is one thing the Giants really, really want to keep pushing on from the bullpen and starters, less walks. And today they only had 4 walks in the 9 innings that they had at Scottsdale. And he shut the door on the Padres. Very impressive outing by Spencer Bivens. Lou Trevino came in, walked a couple guys, but he got out of it. When you look at Camilo Duvall, Circle Camilo, he was bringing it at 99 miles an hour, and he had a nice 1-2-3 clean inning. The Giants portrayed it through it, and then Emmy Romero ends up giving up a home run to Sheets, lefty. I'm sure he's not real happy with that, but the Giants end up getting that win in Scottsdale 7-4. 2 impressive comeback wins, and I think that's what all Giants fans would love to continue to see. And really 2 good games. And I say this in 2 different ways. One, especially in Mesa with the youngsters coming in, minor leaguers getting an opportunity to play, and they called them A games, getting on stage. And they were in Sloan Park playing the Chicago Cubs. And a lot of the young players going over there, they got a chance to play as well as pitch. And they did a fantastic job in that comeback win, winning 8-6. In Scottsdale, the same identical thing. I think what happened in Scottsdale, not too many major hits. Matt Chapman got a nice base hit in the 4th inning. But when you look at what Matt Waldron did for the Giants, Matt Waldron, the knuckleballer for the Padres, he just started throwing balls all over the place. Nobody could catch it. Nobody could field it. And he ended up walking 2 before Matt Chapman got the base hit. He ends up walking Flores. And the damage was pretty much done that inning. They scored 2 runs on wild pitches. Of course, Chapman got the RBI on one of them. And then in the 6th inning, it all opened up. Again, Matt Chapman getting a walk. Flores gets a base hit. And again, Waldron comes back in the game. 2 more, a wild pitch there, and then the catcher throws it over the first baseman's head. The right fielder throws it over the shortstop's head, and the Giants end up getting 2 unearned runs. A hit by pitch by Huff. A base hit by Encarnacion came through with a real nice base hit to right field, and the Giants scored 4 runs in that 6th inning. 1 more run in the 7th inning. Dwayne talked about it a little bit. Turner Hill, a young right-handed power hitter, hit a nice triple down the right field line, and he proceeded with a nice base hit. Next hitter up got a nice base hit to score that run, and the Giants ended up with 7 runs on 8 hits. 7 runs, 8 hits, 0 errors, 4 runs, 10 hits, and 2 errors for the Padres. The Giants now are 10-3-3 on the spring. A great week this week with 6 wins. That's a positive right there in every aspect to move forward with spring training as we look for March 27th for the opener, and that'll be in Cincinnati. Logan Webb will be on the hill, and tomorrow he gets another start as the Giants will go over to Salt River Field at Talking Stick to play the Colorado Rockies. Logan Webb will get that start. Birdsong, Jelly, Diaz, and Alvarez will follow him up. So a good day all around for the San Francisco Giants, getting a double-hitter win. And we're going to talk more about this. I have Alex Simon, who was the Scottsdale. I'm going to bring him on. A little bit about what he saw eye to eye with this team in Scottsdale. Also have Irwin Hagar. Of course, if you know Irwin's name, he's the Spanish broadcaster, the play-by-play announcer for the Gigantes, and a lot of good news on what's going on with the Spanish radio. We'll talk about Irwin, and then Wade Meckler. Had a chance to talk to him about hitting and speed and different things that he's been working on. And I understand in Mesa he was pulled in the 1st inning of a minor injury, so I'm looking into that and finding out what happened to Wade Meckler in that game in Mesa. That's all coming up, so we're going to take our first break. Come back with more right here. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show. We'll be right back on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
After the game, hear from a guy who wore the orange and black, who was an all-star.
The Giants have won the ball game. Bill Laskey, in his first major league start, has shut out the Montreal Expos.
And now takes that experience and turns it into expert analysis.
Veteran leadership has to come again, especially with this overloaded National League West.
Catch Extra Innings with Bill Laskey right after the Giants postgame.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets. Quite simply the best.
On the Sports Leader. Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning postgame show. A beautiful Sunday here in Northern California, and the Giants ended up winning in Scottsdale in a fashion that a couple wild pitches, some errors, and they came through with a 7-4 win in Scottsdale. In Mesa in a split squad, 5 runs in the top of the 9th inning rally for the Giants, and they ended up beating the Chicago Cubs 8-6. A doubleheader win. Now they're 10-3-3. And we all know it's only spring training, but it's always good momentum to get that clubhouse gathered in with some young players, some veteran players, some big leaguers, and you want to get that momentum working. I think that's the key here for all Giants fans. We want to keep them winning, keep them that mojo. The positivity comes from it. And tomorrow they go and play the Colorado Rockies at Salt River, and Logan Webb will be on the hill. 808 KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. Let's go to a couple calls. Let's go to San Lorenzo and talk to Mark. Mark, you're on the Extra Inning postgame show on Sunday with Bill Laskey. How are you doing today?
Bill, it's a pleasure as always, just like every year. I'm listening to you after the games, and today I'm washing the cars, and I'm feeling positive, man. I'm feeling positive. Bill, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen this much potential. You have veterans.
And, Mark, one of the things I'll throw at you, I think the pitching staff has been throwing extremely well this whole spring training, and you're getting guys that are fighting for the bullpen. There's going to be some arms that are going to be in this bullpen that are going to be surprises. Today, of course, Spencer Bivens is just that guy that doesn't get a lot of praise, but every time he goes in there, throws strikes, no walks. That's his 4th time in spring trainings, and he dazzled today, going 2 1/3 innings with 3 punch-outs.
I remember, Bill, well, when you mentioned him today, I remembered last year they brought him up in an emergency situation, a guy that was practically sitting at home, and they brought him in to fill in for all the injuries that were going on in the pitching staff. And he surprised everyone. And, man, I'm looking at the guy that played shortstop last year. Now he's going to move over to second base. He came on like a gangbuster. You got Adames now. You got Chapman at third. You got Bailey behind the plate. First base, you could get the PCL Player of the Year at first base, right? Right?
I mean,
didn't he? I heard that yesterday when we were watching the game. We were on the field at FanFest. And they're talking about, and you got to give me his name because I forgot it, but he's been with them a couple times. But now, I mean, he's going to be coming in, like you said, with his chest pumped out because he was the Player of the Year down the PCL. I mean, you can't just forget about that. And then you got the outfield. You got Chung Hu coming back. You got who else? You got Matos.
You got Elliot Ramos, who's starting to play a little more. He was a leadoff hitter today, no question. He was trying to get some more at bats for Elliot Ramos. Yastrzemski also playing well. He had a nice bomb yesterday. And then you got to look at Luis Matos. Matos ended up going to Mesa. He ended up getting a hit. The couple of names that I would love to throw to you, Casey Schmidt, who's really fighting to be a bench player, a pinch hitter. He's having a great spring.
Absolutely.
I threw those numbers out. 8 hits so far, 3 home runs, 6 extra base hits. And I think that's showing a lot of Giants fans that he is ready to contend at the big league level.
I sure hope so, Bill, because, we had high hopes for him, too, when he came up. But you know the game. I mean, it surprises everybody, right? You come into the major leagues, that's all-stars. Everybody's an all-star in the minor leagues that made it.
That's right.
And so it's hard to get your niche, and then they know how to pitch him, right? They'll pick his weak spot.
Well, Mark, I look at one other thing, too, Mark. Sorry to interrupt you, but, I look at
– No, you're fine.
I look at what these players, they got to the big leagues last year. It's a whole different game. The game's faster. The play is quicker. The pitchers are more refined. Once you get done with that, the winner is where you're going to say, okay, I got to get better at this if I'm going to stay at the big league level. And I think Casey Schmidt's one of those guys. I look at Tyler Fitzgerald, another one of these guys that are going to play really big parts for this team, and they got their feet wet last year. They got their feet wet, and I think that's what Giant fans are going to see a little bit more of these youngsters getting opportunities, and I think the second year you're going to learn a lot from the first year, and maybe that'll help.
Yeah, and now we got guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. You know, Adames is going to bring power. Chapman is who he is, and the outfielders are going to bring what they got. But I see a young team. I hope they start gelling together. They got a great manager. Bob Melvin can work his thing. The pitchers, they got Verlander's coming in, right? I don't know how much they're going to get out of him. They got the cat they picked up last year that came through Tommy John surgery, right?
Robbie Ray. Yeah, he's doing well. Yeah, I think we're going to see Robbie Ray more of a stronger pitcher this year. Last year, you know, you get Tommy John, a lot of second thoughts. The inconsistencies will clean up. He's too good of a pitcher, a Cy Young pitcher. He's got the knowledge of what he can do. And now he's adding a changeup. And when you're throwing 95, 96 and then throwing a changeup 88, 90, that's going to really off-speed the delivery and make sure, you know, hitters are off edge. And he did that last Sunday.
Who's the pitching coach?
JD Martinez has moved up. He was on the bench last year. And, of course, Garvin Alston is their bullpen coach. These guys have just made it better for them. Interviewing a lot of the pitchers as I've done this spring, they're making it fun. They're making it a little more entertaining. They're playing games, you know, with these Nerf balls where they can, you know, make these magnificent ESPN catches with their pitchers, but they're getting their work in and having fun competing. We used to do that all the time when we hit the starters against the relievers, and it's just a friendly conversation, chirp it to each other, and that's what makes these teams gel, when you can have fun like that with the bullpen guys and the starters and you mix and match teams. And I think that's what's happened a little bit more. Eric Miller was on with me yesterday, and he was talking about it. Instead of having all these routine days of PFPs, he said we're having fun with it. And we still get our work in, but still you're out there jarring with each other, and you're making that team together.
Yeah, and it's just the second year. I don't know if the coaching staff stayed intact. You know, you got Pat the Bat was
new hitting coaches. Damon Miner came up. You know, he came up, and they picked up a couple other coaches. But I think what they're doing now with Buster Posey is they're giving these coaches a little more free rein to do things. And when you start doing that, just like I said, the pitching coach is making things work. Pat Burrell's got his buddy Damon Miner, and Damon Miner's been in AAA for so many years, and the ups and downs of these hitters that come back to AAA, he has to do the psychology job. How do I get them back on the positive? And I think that's a great move that Buster Posey and Bob Melvin did by bringing him up, because he knows all these young hitters and the hitters that are up in the big leagues. He had part of that too.
I can't wait, Bill. I already bought three games already. The Giants got a great discount program on the MLB.network, and I'm very happy to say yes, I will buy in. And I hope, you know, we go to some great games, because I feel positive about this season. For some reason, I feel good by them. And they're going to go against some great teams in their division.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, it's going to be a battle. We know that, Mark. But I think what we're trying to see is how this foundation is going to be built and how much these young players are going to be part of it. And if we can see that mixed in, like you say, with a Matt Chapman, a Willie Adames, even Patrick Bailey behind the plate that gives them that gold glove sensation for these pitchers, it's going to take work, no question. I think you hit it on the head. Jung-Hoo Lee have a clean season with no injuries. He's going to bring us excitement. And hopefully, you know, when you look at Wade Jr. and Flores at first base, they can complement each other. But it is so far so good, and I think what we're seeing is a team that's ready to play.
And like you said, Bill, it's only spring training, but hopefully they can carry that over to the beginning of the year and get it going early. I
agree. Well, Mark, thanks for the call on a Sunday afternoon. Hopefully your car's clean because the rain's coming, you know.
No, the soap is drying on here, Bill. I got to get it off.
Have a good day, Mark. Thanks for the call, buddy. All right,
Bill.
And that's what we're getting right now with some of the calls coming in over the weekends, the positive vibes from Giants fans. Yesterday, Fan Fest was at Oracle Park. The place was packed. Saw a lot of pictures from it. Of course, Adam Copeland and Marcus Boucher was there doing interviews with some of the veteran players from Sergio Romo, JT Snow. Some great interviews and just getting the energy back at Oracle Park. A beautiful park. The park was really shining yesterday, and having fans pack the park and really talk and just talk to your buddy. Talk about Giants. Wear your orange and black. Get all that apparel back out. Giants are starting March 27th. March 27th. It's right around the corner for opening day in Cincinnati. We're going to take a quick break. 808 KNBR. Got a couple callers on hold. I want to bring Alex Simon in. He was in Scottsdale today to watch the San Francisco Giants beat the Padres 7-4. We're going to bring him up next and talk about this game. I'm Bill Laskey. This is Extra Innings. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR. The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
All right, back on the Extra Inning postgame show with Bill Laskey. Giants won a doubleheader today, both wins coming from behind as they were down 6-3 going into the top of the ninth inning in Mesa at Sloan Park, and they come back with 5 runs in the top of the ninth inning to pull that one out 8-6. And in Scottsdale, the Giants were down in this game 3-0, and they came back and won that one 7-4. As the Giants now are 10 wins, 3 losses, and 3 ties. Not bad as they start gelling and getting better, and we're seeing more and more of what Bob Melvin's doing with this lineup. We saw that in Scottsdale today. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this game, and Alex Simon, of course, he is the sports editor for the SF Gate. He was there in Scottsdale. Let's welcome him in. Alex, how are you today?
Doing fantastic, Bill. Bill, I'm doing fantastic. It was a wonderful weather day down here in Arizona.
Boy, everything that John and Dwayne were talking about, blue skies in the 70s, and you know, you got to watch a few things that happened in this game, and I got to talk right off the bat with Matt Walden, the knuckleballer. That had to have been a fun inning when everything he threw they couldn't catch, and everything the catcher tried to do, he couldn't even knock it down. Tell me a little bit about the knuckleball today.
Yeah, so it was interesting, Bill. It was very obvious when Waldron came in that Diaz, who was catching for the Padres, probably hasn't done that before. He actually brought out a first baseman's mitt by the looks of it to play the position, and I think he dropped the first 3 pitches in a row to start the inning. And so it became very evident very quick that he didn't trust himself. I think Waldron lost faith in his catcher to catch the ball, and it just kind of derailed both of the innings that he was in there. And actually, he even went for a third with a different catcher too. But yeah, it was definitely a sight. I'll put it that way.
Well, Alex, John, and Dwayne were having so much fun bringing back Wilbur Wood, Phil Necro, Joe Necro, even Tom Candiotti. They were bringing back all the knuckleballers that they could remember. And one of the things Dwayne was talking about was that about the glove. Yet you need a different glove, a no-hinge glove, if everybody understands what that is, because the movement of the knuckleball changes in everything you throw.
I think the thought being the first baseman's mitt that they tried to use just wasn't firm enough. And I think, Bill, that's kind of what you're talking about with the no-hinge glove. Your catcher's glove is probably, the modern catcher's glove especially, is probably just too small to really do what you want with it, but you need the firmness of it, and you just need a larger version of a catcher's glove. I'm sure that there are some players that you either were coached by or maybe were a generation older than you that you've had at your various camps and things who would be happy to give the Padres a lesson as to what they did that was wrong today, because it seemed like it was everything in terms of the behind-the-plate equipment.
And, Alex, that's how the Giants kind of got back in this game. A couple walks, a base hit by Matt Chapman in the 4th inning, and then really the San Diego Padres just started making a few errors down the road, and the Giants got back in this game. But I want to talk about this lineup because Bob Melvin is throwing out his A1 lineup. Elliot Ramos leading off. No question he was just trying to get him some at-bats because of the strain in his oblique. That now he's healthy and feeling a lot better. And then you had Adames, Jung-Hoo Lee, Chapman, Flores, Bailey, Yastrzemski, Encarnacion, and even Brett Wisely, who's having a great spring. How did you think about this lineup, and do you think this is going to gel well with the Giants?
I mean, look, 2 through 4 there, that's the 2 through 4 I think we can almost lock in for opening day at this point with Adames, Lee, Chapman. They'll obviously, they sent Wade and Fitzgerald over Mesa to have a few big league guys in the other game like they're required to by MLB rules. You always have to have a few guys at every spring game in the lineup. So a split squad day kind of forces you to not be fully whole in terms of what you're doing. But it was very obvious that they have their guys right now who they believe these guys to look how they play off of each other. We want these guys to know what kind of protection they provide each other. I mean, look, I think Adames is going to be exactly what they want him to be today. He laces the ball to the left center gap. I don't know why the Padres had their center fielder shitting him in right center. Maybe if he's in center field, he has a chance to track it down. But because he was in left center, because the ball was in left center and he was in right center, he had no chance whatsoever. It feels like they've got their dynamic trio right there. I don't know if that's a trio that feels like you compete with the Dodgers because of them, but I certainly think you're going to feel comfortable that part of the lineup's going to have some damage done at least one time during a ball game when they go through there, if not multiple times.
That voice you hear on Extra Innings, my good friend Alex Simon. He's a sports editor for SF Gate. Read his articles. He's on everything, and he's in Scottsdale. That's why I'm giving him a call today to talk to him about what he saw at Scottsdale Stadium. And I want to talk a little bit about the defense. Matt Chapman yesterday made 2 sparkling plays. Today, once again, going down the left field line on a hop, making the play from the grass and throwing it across first base. He is just a magnet for ground balls, Alex, and every one has just been a pearl with the throw to first.
I got lucky because when I used to work for MLB.com, I actually was covering Matt when he got called up as a rookie with the A's. And right away, you could tell this guy was different. The defense that he plays, the instincts that he has are next level. And even with some of the best, some of the best say he's one of the best. And when you get those kind of endorsements from people within the game, it's clear that ball you're talking about, he basically made his mind up on the first bounce that I needed to take my steps back. And the thing about it is he caught the ball in his throwing motion towards the top. So that way he could basically go from catching the ball to grabbing the ball to throwing the ball in one fluid second in that regard. And that's what makes him just unbelievable. He makes a play like that seemingly every night. Adames has also been, I think, he had a down season defensively last year based off of what the metrics would say. I'm sure he would even admit it himself. But those two together seem to really be a shot at a dynamic left side of the infield defensively, if only for the fact that they seem to be communicating so well, understanding it. And today, Adames just takes charge of an infield in a way that is going to be really helpful for this organization.
It sure is, Alex. That whole left side of the infield, and both these guys are never going to want to come out of the game. Over 150 games for both of them last year. And you just look at what Matt Chapman does with that ball in front of the shortstop. Yesterday in post-game remarks, he says, I feel like a 5-year-old. Any ball hit, I'm just going to go grab, and Adames can wait for me. So it was a pretty little one-liner to Adames. I got it, don't worry about it kind of thing. But he picks up the ball bare hands so well, of course, the last year with that play against the New York Mets, but he picks it up and he throws it sidearm, kind of off balance. What do you think of that? And that's a pretty hard throw for any kind of third baseman.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard throw. It's shortstop too, by the way. There was a play early in the game where a line drive was kind of a short hop grounder was hit off of Hicks's foot, and Adames kind of charged at it. It took one bounce in the infield, and he picked it up barehanded. Now, the hop was too high that they didn't get the out. But I think for both of these guys, the way that they can attack, you feel like, Bill, they attack the baseball defensively rather than letting the baseball attack them. And because of that, everything they do is with the intention of, we're going to go make this play, even if it seems difficult. And even just as an attitude perspective, we know Chapman's like that. If Adames is like that too, it's going to make pitchers feel a lot more confident throwing in the strike zones, throwing to try to get the ball. And I think with the way that this Giants pitching staff is set up, that you can be high strikeout, but wouldn't it be nice if you could be 7-8 innings a night the way Logan Webb loves to do when you know that any ball hit to the left side of the infield is probably getting grabbed?
Oh, no question, Alex, and I think that's one of the reasons why you look at the left side. And you look at the right side with Fitzgerald. Of course, he played shortstop most of the year last year. And you're going to have a battle at shortstop. This is the kind of question I want to ask you. Brett Wisely coming into the game, 7 for 18 already in the spring. You look at Casey Schmidt. 8 hits already, 6 extra base hits, hit his third home run today. And you start looking at what Tyler Fitzgerald, they have him penciled in as a leadoff second baseman, more or less the guy they're going to go with first off. But, boy, you got 2 guys right on his tail, and you just wonder how this is going to play out here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of the beat writers where we've got 2 more weeks of spring left. I think it's 2 weeks from today they'll play the exhibition game in Sacramento. That kind of marks the end of spring, if you will, and kind of to the start of the we're ramping up for the full go here. I think it's Fitzgerald's job to lose, and I don't necessarily think he's done anything to lose it, but between Wisely and Schmidt, if one of them gets on a heater, they could turn that into a platoon situation, especially with Wisely. The other thing would be, they aren't going to necessarily give Fitzgerald the biggest leash where if he has even a bad week of games, let's get these other guys in there. They'll probably be in there more often than they would be if they were backing up third or short. So already, Fitzgerald might not start 5 games out of 6 in a week, the way that we think Chapman and Adames will start all 6 games in a week. He might only start 4 as it is. But if he starts to struggle, let's turn that into 3 and give Wisely a few more chances, maybe even against a tough lefty, and we'll see from there. I think it's, there's a lot of interesting roster decisions they're going to have to do, and I feel like there still is a room to make a move or two with the guys. I mean, David VR has obviously never really settled in with the big league team, but so they're going to have to figure out if they just DFA him or maybe you flip him for some piece. There's a lot of guys that are kind of on the periphery of the big league roster. But, Bill, it feels like this roster is going to be pretty set. And I think, between having a backup like Luis Matos to platoon with Yaz, Gerard Encarnacion has looked really good. I thought he had an incredible at-bat to take an outside pitch and go the other way today. It's not going to run. Between that, then you've only really got space for one infielder, and at that point you're going to have Flores a part of it as well, who's kind of a first base DH. So you're really only looking at one backup infield spot for Wisely or Schmidt. And then you're looking at backup catcher, which seems like Sam Huff. The roster, you never say never, and injuries could happen over these next 2 weeks, but it feels like the roster's pretty close to set as much as you can have it with the 2 weeks to go here.
Yeah, I agree, and I disagree, because I think the bench is going to be a weak spot for him. I just don't think Lamb is doing enough for that veteran to make the team as a pinch hitter. Casey Schmidt, like you say, Wisely. I don't think they're real happy with the backup catcher right now. Both Sam Huff and Max Stassi really have not done anything with the bat. Max Stassi just getting a base hit yesterday. Sam Huff coming in today gets a walk and a hit by pitch, and I just wondered if they're going to
which was, by the way, it was on ball 4, so it would have been 2 walks, I will say.
But still, Alex, I think that backup catcher, now that Tom Murphy's out, I think there's a big question mark there, and there may be an opportunity they pick up somebody. I don't think Buster Posey's done with this roster. I think he's still looking around for a possible trade, maybe something else to help them in the DH spot. Encarnacion's the guy right now, maybe Lamont Wade Jr. I think there might be another move here coming with Buster.
Yeah, I am hesitant to expect it, but there's certainly possibilities. It feels like they'd be on the periphery. And I do think, Bill, for as much as, there feels like there's some opportunity, this is also where you want to give guys a chance to come up and grab spots and take it. The nice part about not really having DH be a fully settled position, even if you think, Encarnacion's probably making the roster, you'll have him and Flores and Wade basically being able to either be the DH or first base on a given day, unless you want to give somebody a blow. If Marco Luciano goes to AAA and hits the snot out of the ball for 2 weeks, there's nothing that's stopping him from coming up and getting those at-bats at DH in the big league team right now.
I agree with you. I think whoever's hot. I think that's one thing, Alex. That's what Bob Melvin's looking at. Guys that come in there and take at-bats and be serious about them. And there's some guys that are really making these decisions going to be tough. And I just circled Casey Schmidt. He is doing a fine job hitting the ball out of the park. Had a nice slider home run he hit today. He didn't miss it. 3 home runs, 8 hits, 6 of them extra bases, playing good defense. I just think he's penciled in also, but you got to look at the pitching side. Let's jump over there. A couple more minutes with Alex Simon. Of course, Alex is the sports editor for the SF Gate. Let's just look at the starters. I think there might be a couple spots here that could be hesitant for Bob Melvin. You look at the top 4, I think all of them are etched in, but you sure got a lot of guys fighting for that 5th spot. Birdsong's throwing again tomorrow behind Logan Webb. Harrison did not have a good outing against the Diamondbacks. And I want to hear what you think of Jordan Hicks, because you watched him today.
Jordan looked solid. I don't think he was at his absolute best, and he definitely had a rough inning in there. I think it was smart of the Giants, with the way that they do spring now. You can take a guy out and put him back in for an inning, and nobody really cares. These games don't matter in that sense. And I thought it was smart that they had him go out for a 4th inning, throw 10 more pitches, got 2 more outs, and pulled him at that point just so he could get a few more reps. And look, I think that 4, Webb, Verlander, Ray, and Hicks, they're airtight on that. They know that that's the 4 that they're starting opening day with if everybody gets there healthy in terms of rotation. And, Landon Roop, I think, came into today when he was starting over in Mesa as the unquestioned 5th starter, to be honest, because of how good he's looked. And the fact that he's been able to add a changeup to the excellent curveball, add a cutter, add to the fastball that he also had. So all of a sudden he's got a 4-pitch mix. He did get roughed up today. That was the Cubs lineup that was almost getting ready for big league baseball since they play in Tokyo next week. So you can forgive it a little bit, but I think, Harrison has some catching up to do. I only question, do the Giants want these guys to be fully stretched out as starters, group so dynamic that you would be willing? He's the one most capable, I think, of coming in as a reliever on the big league roster on opening day, that I don't know if they would do that with how good he's looked, and then it becomes a 3-horse race for one spot. That was always, to me, Bill, kind of the question about even a Verlander signing is, are you sure you want to take away opportunities to start at the big league level for these young guys? But you would rather have more starting pitchers than you need than need more starting pitchers than you have.
Well, you always want surplus. I think that's one thing that Buster as well as Bob both are looking at, surplus of arms. You go through so many arms through a year. You know this, Alex. You've been watching baseball as long as I have, and the surplus of arms and good arms. And you also look at what they're trying to get in that fifth starter. They pushed Jordan Hicks out to 60 pitches. I think that's pretty much what they want to do. They still got maybe 2 or 3 more starts to get him up to 70 or 80. Logan's going to pitch tomorrow. They're going to probably push him to 4 or 5 innings. Verlander threw 4 the other day. So everything's amping up the correct way.
Yeah.
I just don't know why they're, Hayden Birdsong threw a little bit. He threw a Papago the other day. Tomorrow he's back in the mix of pitches after Logan Webb. I just don't know if I would want to continue to put him in as a reliever. I think they just need to make him a starter. If they're going to start him, get him out there and start. That's the mindset that I would do if I was a pitching coach, especially with Birdsong.
Yeah, I think they're telling him to approach, taking over in whatever inning you take over, because they're not putting him in, behind Webb in the middle of an inning, right? They're having him start a clean inning, and they're telling him to approach this like it's a start and run with this for as much as you can. I mean, Bill, it sounds like they might really only need 2 guys at all tomorrow. Today they had Hicks and nobody really set behind him. It means we got to see Camilo Doval today, which I thought was very interesting, and he looked like the numbers up there were popping with the 99s and 100s like usual, but he was very quick, clean, and efficient, which is very nice to see for him. I think we're kind of at the point where the most fascinating part of this team, Bill, is going to be they've got a lot of guys they really like arms-wise, and they don't have enough roster spots for all of them. This bullpen's going to be a fascinating question, and they've got a ton of interesting guys, and I just don't know. I don't think they even know yet exactly what they want to do with it, but they've got a lot of intrigue. A lot of things to intrigue them.
They do, and some veteran pitchers. When you look at Lou Trevino coming back, and he walked a couple guys, but he got out of the inning. Emmy Romero, a 34-year-old lefty. Are they going to add 2 lefties in the bullpen? And who could that be? Luke Casey came in the game today, gave up a base hit, gave up a run off a root. But there is some veteran leadership out there that could possibly help them on the left-hand side. And you know it as well as I do. Bob Melvin said, maybe we don't need 2 lefties in the bullpen. Last year, of course, Rogers was the other lefty with Miller. Miller was in over 72 games last year. I think they really want to get that number down, but if you only have 1 lefty and he can come in to set up somebody, he's going to be in a lot of games if they don't go to 2 lefties in the bullpen.
Well, the key, Bill, would be I don't care how many lefties are ready to have. I want guys who can get people out. And if it ends up being that your right-handed pitchers can get left-handed batters out, you don't care if you only have 1 lefty. Oftentimes you want it to be balanced because you think lefties have a better time against lefties. But if you have righties in there who you can trust to go a full turn through the order and get guys out, then I think you feel fine. I thought it was interesting today when they pulled Hicks over in Scottsdale, they brought Spencer Bivens in, and he got 1 out right away and then threw 2 more full innings. And that, to me, kind of signals as a guy that they want him to be ready to not just kind of be a fireman and clean up a mess in the middle of an inning, but then, hey, if you clean up that mess, go get 2 more innings, big boy. Let's get some more games going, and let's see if you can just completely, if you come in the 4th inning because the starter got roughed up, can you get us to our usual bullpen in the 7th at that point and finish the 4th, pitch the 5th, pitch the 6th, and all of a sudden that's 1 guy to the rest of your bullpen that kind of covers a bad start in that way. I thought Bivens looked really good.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. John and Dwayne really talked about Spencer Bivens last year, not even knowing who he was. Here's a guy that's been playing in all different places, different countries, and they really talked about Bob Melvin liking what he saw, and he said, hey, He's bring him over. He's a non-roster pitcher, and the next thing you know, he's in the big leagues. And you're absolutely right. He can give you length if you want. Today he went 2 1/3. He has been pitching well. That was his 4th appearance, only giving up 1 run so far. But he threw strikes,
he beat the
Alex,
Dodgers as a starter last year. Remember, he pitched 5 innings to beat the Dodgers on a Sunday as a starter. So we know he can give you length. That game was probably, nobody knew that was coming, probably not even Spencer himself. But in a spot start, if he's capable of doing that, then you certainly don't want to dissuade him. I think he's better as a bullpen piece, but a guy who could maybe go 3 full innings out of the bullpen when you need it and just shut stuff down, I think that's certainly where they see him. Now, again, they have so many options. I don't know if that makes the most sense to have him immediately be on the big league roster or not. He might be one of those guys who starts in AAA, maybe even does some closing in AAA to get used to some big moments before he comes up to the big league team at some point. They're going to use a lot of guys, if only because injuries are going to happen, but I certainly feel like they feel really confident in their pitching depth right now.
Well, after this week, they won 6 games with 1 tie. It's a good mojo for them, positive thoughts, and that clubhouse has got to be pretty loud and proud. Alex, we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be talking to you out through the year, but I really appreciate your time today. Enjoy Scottsdale. The weather's great right now.
I absolutely will. Yeah, it's very fun right now to see the Giants. They sound like a soccer team with 10 wins, 3 losses, and 3 ties. But we'll take that over the rest of the season that way. And appreciate you having me on as always, Bill.
Always, Alex. Thank you so much. That was Alex Simon. Of course, he's a sports editor for SF Gate. Always comes on. We love talking baseball with Alex. Great insight. I appreciate his time in Scottsdale. More coming up right here. 808 KNBR if you want to call in. 415-808-5627. Same number. But let's get some Giants talk going on here as we continue the extra inning postgame show with Bill Laskey. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
This is the flagship of Giants baseball.
Double play!
KNBR and KNBR-FS San Francisco, the sports leader. listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
All right, back on the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey as we continue through spring training. Right now, the Giants are 10-3-3, leading the Cactus League. Woohoo! They're in first place. Wow, how about that? But I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the team. It's good for the members on the team. It's good confidence for a young team to get in there and compete. Today they were down 6-3 in Mesa, came back with 5 runs in the top of the 9th inning to pull that one out, and it was mostly all minor leaguers. A kid 21 years old, Ortega, infielder from Venezuela, Sabalas, a 22-year-old kid, and he's from Puerto Rico. It's great seeing these kids come into these games and do what they can do and play baseball. Gets eyes on him. It gives the Giants more faith with the younger players. They come back and win that 8-6 today in Scottsdale. They had their pretty much everyday lineup in, but they still were down 3-0. Jordan Hicks gives up 3 runs in the 4th inning and 3rd inning. And when you start looking at, these are the games that you can come back with. You can come back and compete. They didn't really hit the ball, a lot of walks and errors by the Padres, but they come back and win. And I think that's what we all want to see as baseball fans, especially orange and black baseball fans. We cheer the Giants on. We cheer them on. And to win a game 7-4, they were out hit. They only had 8 hits. The Padres had 10. Doesn't matter. A win is a win. Sure, it's spring training. Sure, we don't count these games. Sure, we're trying to see what Bob Melvin can do for this team to make this roster. But isn't it fun just to win? That's what baseball is about. You want to win. It doesn't matter if it's a spring training game, an exhibition game. You want to walk out of that clubhouse with a smile on your face and a win. It gives so much positive hope for all of us that are following the Giants, all of us that are competing to see if this team can win. But boy, it's just confident. And I think that's what this coaching staff wants. I know that's what Buster Posey wants. And we know it's spring training, and I keep saying it, yes, we do. But it's sure nice to have 6 straight wins. And that's what the Giants did from last Sunday to this Sunday. 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone line, let's chat with a couple of people on hold. Let's go out to Berkeley and talk to Andrea. Andrea, thanks for holding on. How are you today?
Good. I just really appreciate your positive energy and good mojo. Great.
Well, everybody says, Andrea, it's only spring training, Bill. I know that. But you know what? You want to win.
Right.
You look at the Padres, they're 4-11. Do you think that clubhouse is as excited as the Giants clubhouse? Sure. There's waves, there's ups and downs. We know that. But you want to build that confidence within the walls, and I think that's what they're doing right now.
Yes, and Spencer Bivens, that was a very excellent pitching performance. I just looked him up, June 28, 1994, and he's having his Saturn return. Happens between 28 and 30, which is a cycle of increased career focus and ambition. So it's really a very positive time for him career-wise in terms of, really making things very focused and successful, putting all his energy there. So
and you know what, Andrea? He's a hidden gem. I think that's what he's done. He was floating all over different countries and playing and pitching. He always kept a positive mentality of the game. Last year, Bob Melvin grabbed him from minor leagues, brought him over. He pitched well. And this year, he's been pitching well. That was his 4th appearance of the spring. He got 7 1/3 innings, only giving up 1 earned run, no walks. And this is one thing they're trying to do, eliminate the walks.
Yeah, we'll take that. And in another positive energy, I went to the Giants Fan Fest yesterday.
Oh, good. It was beautiful out there, wasn't it?
It was beautiful, perfect weather and a perfect blend of past, present, and future. Mm-hmm. We had the Q&A with some of the Giants and JT Snow. And then,
Sergio Romo. Sergio Romo was out there. He was great.
Yeah, and they had the game on the scoreboard. And then for the future, I went to the club level. That was open. I went to the press box, the club level, and they have these wonderful, tributes. They had Tim Flannery in a nice tribute, and then Barry Zito transitioning to his singing career. And then they had this AI booth, which is the artificial intelligence, where you can take a picture and they put you in a baseball uniform.
Oh, I'd like to see yours, Andre. I know you did it.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And then I went on the field for the KNBR booth and got an awesome schedule, nice big
Great.
printing to see the year ahead. The only thing was I just missed the Brian Wilson bobblehead by a few minutes. It sold out. So if any of your listeners have an extra one, please do let me know.
Oh, for sure. And I it was just great to see how many people are out there. Mike Holler,
It was.
our boss, was out there, and he was telling me there's so many people here, Bill. They had lines going around the ballpark. It brings the energy back, doesn't it, Andrea? It brings that energy of Giant fans wanting a winner, wanting something you can cheer about, because we know the base here is so strong for the orange and black, and yesterday was a perfect example of it.
Yeah, it really was. And again, the Giants did a really great blend of past, present, and future. And it was just really, just very enlightening and inspiring to get you back in the spirit of baseball. And I'm just really looking forward to it. We got a game, I think you mentioned, on Tuesday against the A's. It'll be televised. Yeah, that should be interesting. And
a couple more televised games, and yesterday, of course, that game was televised. You said it; they saw it on the board, and we got to watch it here. MLB had one on. I think it was last weekend. We got to watch them, but it's just getting all of us back into that momentum of baseball seasons here. You know, you look at March 27th, and that's the opener in Cincinnati. It's just right around the corner. A couple more weeks of spring training. There are some slots that are still questionable. They're still trying to fill in. What do you think is going to be one of the strengths this year for the Giants, Andrea?
Interesting. Well, I always like to say pitching because I think it really begins and ends with pitching. So I kind of like the rotation. I mean, like I said, we got an extra pitching coach in the deal with Justin Verlander. So even if he doesn't, get his 300 wins or, get that momentum, and he's just such an excellent mentor. What he did with Birdsong just a couple weeks ago, tell him go on this side of the pitching rubber instead of the first base side, and things like that are really important. So I really think pitching will be a big focus, and it's really nice to have Verlander on board in a lot of different roles.
It's so true, and it's so true what Buster did by bringing some of the greats down there and putting them in uniform. J.T. Snow, Santiago Casilla, Petit. There's so many guys that he's bringing down. Marco Scudero. And when you listen to players that have great careers and they have wearing that orange and black uniform for pride, it's great just to listen to them. Dwayne was talking today about Camilo Duvall in the lunchroom, just laughing. He says, I never heard Camilo laugh before. And who is he talking to? Santiago Casilla. And he goes, they're talking Spanish back and forth. But see, that's what you want to do. You want to get that that confidence, but you want to get them to relax a little bit more. You want to be around your countrymen. You want to have a little bit more of that voice telling you pluses and minuses and what you can work off of, what you can get better. And today, boy, he dominated that one inning, throwing 99 miles an hour. And I really hope that he comes back from what he had last year. It was a really up and down year for him. He lost his closer's position. He had to go back to the minor leagues to try to figure it out. And I just hope that he comes back this year with a little more relaxed so he doesn't have to worry about every pitch of every hitter.
Yeah, and just so you know, I asked for directions yesterday how to get to the club level, and the woman said, oh, your voice sounds familiar. Are you on the Bill Laskey show? And I said, yes, because I love that show. So, just so you know, one of the Giants.
The ushers people. And the usherettes are some of my great fans.
Yeah,
they
really
go all the way
are.
back to Candlestick, and when they leave the game, they always put me on. When I see them, they're always saying, Bill, you enlighten us. You always have fun with it. And, it's a fun post-game show. And,
right.
Andrea, you, of course, of many other fans calling it. It's always a delight. And we're going to do it again starting March 27th, I should say. It's the season starts, and we're going to have fun again, Andrea. But thanks for the call. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
All right, let's go out to San Francisco and talk to another caller that calls in a lot. Big Mike, how are you today?
I'm good, Bill. Had a chance to look at your baseball reference page for the first time today, And I just want to say I remember Rick Russell having success at 42 years of age, 16 and 10.
Absolutely right. Yeah, you're thinking about Justin
ERA.
Verlander too. I'm thinking you're comparing both of these guys a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm looking at Justin, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions about him. One of them is, I've seen hitters that could go to about 37 years old, and pitchers that could go a little bit, maybe 5 years even beyond that. Why do you think that is? And the second question, I'll take it off air, is what vet took you under their wing when I was 3 years old, in 1982?
Well, you don't have to go off, Mike, if you want to stay there. Let's just talk a little bit about longevity of a pitcher. And I even go back to Nolan Ryan and what I got from Nolan Ryan in a couple conversations. He used to swim a lot. And he thinks swimming is so good for an arm and a body, and it strengthens the core of you. It strengthens your legs. The other one was Steve Carlton. He was in, martial arts so much, and he used to, the duck walk. He used to go up the ramps with duck walk. I mean, there were so many good, solid pitchers that pitched into their late 30s, early 40s, but it was all about maintaining physicality. And it's working out, doing the different things between starts, doing different things to strengthen yourself, and not just physical, but mental part of the game too, to understand hitters, understand what you're going up against in the next start. Those are all things that I learned from some of the veteran pitchers I worked with. The other one that I learned a lot was from Milt May. He was our catcher when I first came up. And Milt May was a guy that always talked about how you pitch certain hitters. How do you set up a hitter? How do you know what to throw next? He was always 3-4 pitches down the road. And that really made me learn about pitching. And when you start learning that, even at the big league level, boy, oh boy, it does make a big difference. I'm sure you heard my interview with Reggie Smith a couple weekends. Reggie and I talked so many times, and he would say, you were a pupil of mine when I was there in 82. And I said, Reggie, you taught me so much just watching swing pass, watching how hitters swing, if they're late on the pitch, if they're early on the pitch, if they just miss it when it falls straight over the catcher's head. There's so much things that you can learn from hitting to pitching, pitching to hitting. And that's what I think is a huge part of what Justin Verlander's bringing to the pitching staff. Another one, too, Mike, is Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray does the same thing. He's an encyclopedia pitching. He's a Cy Young winner. And if he can enlighten Kyle Harrison more as a left-hand pitcher to left-hand starter, I think these are just things that you just start mounting attacks on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I just threw out there.
I listened to the Reggie Smith interview. I listened to the Christian Koss interview last night. Well, this morning, both were great. I thought what you were just saying was kind of the keys to what I believe in sports. As far as fundamentals and as far as sitting down and watching your opponent pregame. To see what advantage you could take over them, to get to know them, so you can get an idea for.
Isn't it, Mike? Isn't it kind of like life lessons? It's kind of like life lessons. The older player.
Absolutely, I'm sitting back.
Yeah, bringing knowledge to the younger player, and then you take it, absorb it, and then you teach it. It's kind of like a domino. But when you bring Justin Verlander over, and I'm sure Max Scherzer's the same way. These guys have reached 3 Cy Youngs. You just don't win Cy Youngs by just going out there competing. You dominate. And he's been doing that, and sure, he's 42 years old. He's already working on a new pitch. He's trying to throw a slow curveball. Can he give the Giants 20 starts, 25 starts? It'd be great. Can he give them length, 5-6 innings? It'd be great. We just don't know what he has, and we know what he has inside him, but can he go out there and compete with that 42-year-old arm every 5th day? We're going to find out. There's no question the mentality is there. It's just how his body can withstand it.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to watching that and seeing how seeing him stand behind everybody's shoulder. Last thing I'll leave you with is Sabine Sabalos is my 7th ranked Giants prospect, and it was nice to see him, not
Man,
one
he
out
hit
of
a
there.
home run today, Mike. Boy, he brought that team. I bet you that place just went crazy when he hit the 3-run home run to give him the
Absolutely,
lead.
I couldn't imagine being there.
He's 4 for 6 in spring training games and A games, and I think you're right. I think he's a prospect the Giants are definitely looking at, and they're getting more eyes on him. And those are the kind of eyes you want, because they can move up the minor leagues a lot quicker. Got Randy Wynn, Ron Wotus. Now we've got 2 sensational, ex-players that can see how these prospects are working and where they can push them. And I think he's going to be one that you're going to be proud of, Mike.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Bill.
Yep,
And
thanks
excuse me
again,
for that.
Mike.
Have a
good
nice
day.
evening.
Yep, you too, Mike. Thanks for the call. Good stuff always with Mike. And he watches the Giants thoroughly through the minor leagues, the big leagues. A good Giants fan, and no question, one of my good callers. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I sit down with Wade Meckler. Wade has been doing really good. Of course, today, for some reason, I saw in Mesa where he got taken out in the first inning with a minor injury. I haven't seen anything yet. But we talk about a lot what happened to him last year with a hand injury. Then he had to come back from rookie ball, A ball, both sides of A ball, from San Jose to Eugene to Richmond to Sacramento, and what kind of road he had to go through to get back to Sacramento and have a good season. So sit back. Wade Meckler's coming up, and we're going to talk a little bit more baseball with him in spring training, and we're going to have more of that right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR. KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
All right, we're back on the Extra Inning postgame show with Bill Laskey. We're going to hold off on that Wade Meckler interview as I got a few callers I want to get to. Giants win a doubleheader today. They come back with 5 runs in the top of the 9th inning in Mesa to beat the Chicago Cubs 8-6. And they come back from a 3-0 deficit in Scottsdale to come back and win that game against the San Diego Padres 7-4. From Sunday to today, they've won 6 games and they've tied 1. Of course, Monday was an off day. Friday was a rainout. And tomorrow, they're off to play the Colorado Rockies at Salt River Field and Talking Stick. Logan Webb on the hill for the San Francisco Giants. Following him is Hayden Birdsong, Sean Jelly, Miguel Diaz, and Hector Olivares, a left-hander. All right, let's get to the calls. Let's go to John in South San Francisco. John, you're on an Extra Inning postgame show. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Bill. Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good, John. Thanks for holding on for me. I'm sorry I missed you there a minute ago, but I'm glad you got on. I'm glad you called in.
I think you were about to talk to Wade Meckler earlier, but hey, Bill, I want to bring something up about the roster for the Giants.
Sure.
Like who's going to stay, who's going to go down to Sacramento. Do you see Jake Lamb making the roster for the Giants this year?
That's going to be a tough one. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. He has not had a good spring. He got injured, and he's just starting to come back. I really believe that when Buster picked him up, he was looking at the Jake Lamb of the old days when he was with the Diamondbacks when he hit 30 home runs. You kind of need a good left-hand hitter coming off the bench, but he has not done anything right now to open any eyes up. And you still might have a couple weeks where he gets in there to hit. I just don't see him fitting in.
Yeah, well, I remember when he was with the Diamondbacks, he always was a giant killer all the time.
He sure was.
Oh my!
Even pinch hitting, right, John? Even coming up to pinch hit, you were like, "Oh, here he comes up again."
Every time when he was with the Diamondbacks, or like games got a little tight, it's like, "Okay, we got this." It's like, all right. Anyways, but I also want to bring up about Bryce Aldridge. I mean, was it too early to bring him up during the roster for the major leagues?
Well, I think what they wanted to do is give him a pat on the back for what he did. 6'7", going through the minor leagues. Farhan Zaidi moved him up pretty quick. And then he had to go to fall ball where he was really exhausted. And I just didn't understand that move of why you're bringing a 20-year-old kid and going through fall ball, which means nothing. They should have just shut him down. And I think that's what Buster ended up doing, sending him home just to get some rest.
I thought it was a smart move by Buster. And
you know what, John, it's good to get up in the big leagues to see what it's like, to come to spring training, rub elbows with some of the big guys, go into the batting cage and talk to Pat Burrell and Damon Minor. It's a good confidence builder. What they want to do, and I can see what Buster and Bob's doing, get them back to the minor leagues, get full games on them, get 4 at-bats every game, play some first base, DH, and just get back in the mindset of getting ready for the season. I think that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, and then I thought I got to give credit to Buster in the offseason signing Willie Adames. That was a huge acquisition, and not only just signing Willie Adames. I mean, I don't know how many shortstops we had to fill a hole last year. We had first you started with Nick Ahmed last year, then you started with Marco Luciano.
Yep,
and then you had although disrespect Tyler Fitzgerald, I thought he did a good job during the middle. The season.
You had Tyler Fitzgerald, you had Casey Schmidt, you had Brett Wisely, you had all these guys trying to fill it in.
To me it was like a merry-go-round for a shortstop.
It was.
But I do like to sign Willie Adames. You got Chapman at third. I think they're going to be a good job. I think they're great in the infield. Yeah. I mean, my big concern is Lamont Wade. Can he stay healthy? That's number one. Can he stay healthy? And number two, does Jaron Encarnacion, does he play first base or does he have an option to be a DH?
Well, he's out of options for one thing. So you're going to probably keep him on the roster. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. He's a huge threat. They had him batting 8th today. And that's not bad to keep somebody down in the bottom of the order that can, hit a ball out if you end up, laying one in there. Today, he had a nice base hit to right field in the 6th inning to extend a lead and get an RBI. He's got power. Again,
Yes,
last year, like always, they always swing out of the zone, the breaking ball out of the zone or the elevated fastball. But you really don't have much options at the DH level except for Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores, and Encarnacion. Again, would you bring Schmidt in? Schmidt's hot as hell right now. There are some spots, John, that, what could you do? What could you build on? And I don't think Buster's done. I think there might be a trade or picking somebody up off waivers always at the end of the season when guys can't make a team. I just think there might be a move or two coming.
The big question is about Casey Smith. I don't disrespect the guy. I mean, his fielding is okay, but
he's a young player. He's a young player, John. That's what you got to look at.
He is a young player. He's still developing, and then I think Patrick Bailey has to have a rebound season. Last year, the injury bug got him. I'm not sure. Did he lose? I don't know if he dropped any weight in the offseason. I'm not sure.
Well, the slump he got into, he couldn't get out of the slump. I think he was like 2 for 72. I might be exaggerating, but it felt that way. It's just like 0 for 4, 0 for 3. Yep. And the longevity of the season wore him out, and I think that's what all Giants fans are concerned about. Great catcher, great framer, Gold Glove winner. And I just said, with Alex Simon on, I just don't think Buster's going to be happy with the backup catchers right now. Sam Huff and Max Stassi just are not coming to win this job. They're not hitting the ball well at all. And you got to have somebody that's going to give you some depth behind when you look at Patrick Bailey and to see who can't do that. Who can give you a couple at bats here? Who can give you a couple games? Kirk Casella was there a lot last year when everybody went down, but he's not a guy that's going to come in here now and help him. And I'm just wondering if that's a spot that maybe Buster's looking at other catchers in the other different organizations that he might steal one in a trade.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, Bill, I actually watched the Giants game yesterday on TV at home. And I also listened to KNBR with Joe Ritzel at FP Santangelo. And, they have some good stuff. I mean, FP knows his baseball. He knows what he's talking about. And then I found out yesterday, if I'm saying correctly, help me out, I might be wrong, Bill. If I'm saying that JT Snow will broadcast the Giants this season?
No, he's going to be a fill-in host. So he'll be doing some post-game shows. He might double up with FP. He may even double up with me once in a while. He wants to get back into radio. JT's a very smart man. I love talking to JT, and he's got a lot of good analysis about the game. Well, 6-time Gold Glove first baseman. He was down in spring training. He loved coaching. Just a guy that's got knowledge on both the offensive side and the defensive side. And I'm so glad KNBR picked him up to do that.
Yeah, I grew up watching JT Snow play with the Giants back in the day. You had Kenny Lawton, Benito Santiago, you had Levon Hernandez and Russ Ortiz. And I grew up watching. Well, we all know Barry was still on the team. Nobody didn't want to leave their seats for Barry Bonds when he was up to bat.
Nobody did.
When I was a kid, I remember when I was with my grandpa. It was back in 2002. I was like 6 or 7 at the time, and my grandma, well, God bless her soul, but she loved to go to all the Giants games. I remember one time it was Game 2. It was Game 161. The Giants had to clinch the wild card that day against Houston. I remember Houston was still in the NL Central at the time. And I remember Woody was on the mound. Somebody told me today, it's hey, kid, listen, I don't know if you follow baseball, but if we win, we get to play in the wild. We go in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I was like, playoffs? Oh. So, back I was like, no, I respect Dusty, too. I see one of these days – as well, I see Dusty Baker going to Cooperstown. Same with Bruce Bochy.
No doubt. No question about it. No question.
Yeah. I love Dusty. Everybody wanted to play for Dusty Baker
Well, John, some memories that you're bringing, even though you were young, you still remember them. And these are Giants moments of the history of the Giants organization, which are so classic. And we're looking for more,
had
right? We're looking for more in 2025, and I think what we're seeing is a team trying to build within young guys, old guys, and they're not really old, they're veterans of the game. They played a lot.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I love what Buster's doing by giving Bob Melvin the reign of putting that 1 through 9 in like we used to learn in baseball, and let the manager decide what moves he makes instead of looking at that iPad and looking at the analytics. Analytics will help you, but it doesn't make the heart and soul of a player, and I'm so glad that is coming back in the orange and black. But I appreciate your call today, John. Thank
again.
You, Bill. Looking
I really
more.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep, looking more to talk to you as the season progressed. But I appreciate
Absolutely.
your time.
I'll
today.
be at their opening day against Seattle on April the 4th.
Excellent.
Hope you see you at the ballpark.
All right, John. Take care. Let's go to Rick in Hayward. Rick, you're on Extra Inning Post Game Show. Thanks for holding on. Appreciate your time.
You guys got to everything I wanted to talk about, so bye.
No, wait a minute, Rick. You always have something to talk about. Don't tell me that. I know you do.
Oh, well, you brought up some memories. I mean, I was 2002. I don't remember how old I was, but I was old enough to remember. Too old, actually, but old enough to see you play live. So.
Well, you know what? You got gray hair then, Rick, because almost everybody that watched me pitch has gray hair by now or they're bald. So I'm going to say you've got gray hair, Rick, not you're bald. Or am I right?
Actually, I don't have as much gray hair as I think I should have for 60 years old. But anyway.
Well, what'd you think of the game today? I mean, good dynamics. I mean, they're winning. Sure, it's spring training. But the gel of what they're doing is playing good baseball, fundamental baseball. Bob Melvin talks about less errors, knowing what to do in cuts. And then you look on the offensive side, they're trying to steal some more bags. I know, Rick, you and I talked about this last year. They got to get better on a base path.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so some of the things I've looked at, 27 home runs in 16 games, as opposed to 33 home runs in 30 games last year during spring. So
big difference.
That's a big difference right there. Now, granted, I don't think that translates to Oracle Park, where the Giants only hit 65 home runs last year. Now, granted, the other team opponents only hit 71 home runs at Oracle. So where the Giants made hay on their home runs last year was on the road. They hit 112 home runs.
Yeah.
But my point with the home runs is, this team is not going to win trying to hit a 3-run home run. They have to win with, like you said, hit and runs, stolen bases, advancing the runner, bunts, stuff like that. Because how many times last year did we go into a post-game show laminated on how many runners were left on base? I mean, we could get runners on base all year long.
You and I talked about that all the time. Runners in scoring position, 10, 11, 12. It was always doubled figures, and they can't do that. And I love what you said. You got to play fundamental baseball. Runners from first to third on a base hit. And I loved what they did today. A couple wild pitches, boom, they were moving. They were scoring. You have to make sure that the opposition, when they make a mistake, you got to capitalize on it. And I'm hoping that's what happens this year.
Here's the thing that, when I was looking at the middle infielders, I really think it's between Wisely, Schmidt, and Fitzgerald for that. Well, actually, Wisely or Schmidt for the backup role, and Fitzgerald is going to probably be the starting second baseman. But I'm still on the fence about that, because the way Schmidt ended last year, he showed me that he figured out how not to be so aggressive at the plate.
Yeah.
Take a few pitches. Wait for the better pitch. I mean, he's got 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 29 at-bats through spring. Granted, he hasn't played much as a starter, but
6 extra base hits, and I think that out of the 8 hits, that's a plus right there. And I'm going to go right back into what you said. He came up, and you're absolutely right about him swinging for the fences. He was not a hitter that's going to watch a couple pitches. He was so aggressive. And as a pitcher, I'm going to throw you changeups. I'm going to throw you off speed because I know you're swinging for the fences, and it really made him go right back down to AAA. When he came up the second time or third time, he was a lot better. You know, when Pat Burrow said he moved him to the plate, a little closer to the plate because everything was outside and he couldn't touch it. I think coming into this spring training, he learned a lot. And I said this earlier in the show today, the second-year players, now they know what the big league, lights and how much players and how good the pitchers are. They learn from it. And it's now the experience of relaxing and trying to make those adjustments, Rick. And you and I talked about that a lot last year.
Well, like you said now, and I've been harping on this. I think the strength of this team is the bullpen.
Oh,
I really am. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking. I mean, Bevins today impressed the heck out of me. I think the kid's got it. He might even be a starter. The way things are going right now, I just am on the fence still about Hicks as a starter, but I know they're going to give him a shot.
I think we all are. And I think, we all remember him with the St. Louis Cardinals, this devastating coming out of the bullpen. I just don't see him being a bullpen arm for them. And everybody keeps saying, Bill, why don't you have him in a setup role? He can be another Duvall. But right now, his mindset is he wants to be a starter. That's why he signed here in a 2-year contract. That's what he wants to be. And the Giants know he's got awesome stuff, mid-90s, high-90 fastball, a hard slider. Today he was throwing curveballs, and that's a new pitch. But what he has to do is he's got to get through the second time through the lineup. First time in the lineup, he dominates. It's the second time, he either tries to chisel the corner, he gets behind hitters, he gives up 2 infield base hits, 2 doubles, and he's done. And I'm glad that Bob Melvin brought him back out there. Limit the damage, go back there in a free inning, and he gets the first 2 guys out. So there's a lot of things. You're not going to be able to do? Yeah, there's a lot of things he's going to have to learn. If he's going to extend to get 5, 6, 7 innings in, he's got to do better in getting ahead of hitters that second time around the lineup.
I do not think he's a 5 or more than a 5-inning pitcher. Mm-hmm. I think his medical condition, especially on the road in July and August, on the road in St. Louis, Houston, or not Houston, but
I know what you're talking about, humidity and the physicality of him. You know, he said he put on more weight, put on some more muscle. He understands what he's got to do to build off it. 60 pitches today is about where he is, and they're going to try to build him another 10 to 20 pitches before opening day, and he gets that start. We're going to see him on that hill. There's no question, Rick. He's going to be that third man, fourth man in a rotation, most likely 4. And we're going to see if he can compete at this level as a starter. But he's got the stuff. We just got to see if he can be consistent with it.
Who do you think is going to be the 5th starter right now?
Ooh, I knew you'd throw some question at me. I don't know. I really like Hayden Birdsong. And I'm going to throw you a name that's really coming quick is Keaton Wynn. Keaton Wynn opened up some eyes yesterday throwing 2 innings. A split finger. It was nasty. You watched the game. So did I. An arm injury. He's come back to it. He's got the experience now at the big league level. I just don't know what they're going to do in that 5th spot, and I think they're just going to play it out and see who wins the battle the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I really liked Keaton when he was healthy. Last year after he, I think it was his elbow, he developed something with his elbow.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, his elbow or his shoulder, and after that, his velocity dropped. Kind of like what's going on with Harrison right now.
But you know what? How about that outing he had in Toronto when he first came up? He was so lights out. Everybody was like, who is this guy? And it's great to talk to Keaton Wynn. He's a young kid that really just establishes himself. He's trying to get a breaking ball and an off-speed pitch. But that split finger, when he's got it on, nobody's going to hit it. But, Rick, great call again today, Rick. It's always a pleasure when you call and we talk baseball, and I appreciate your time today.
Okay, talk to you next week.
All right, let's go to Moraga and talk to Dan. Dan, you're on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. How are you doing today? Are you there, Dan?
Hear me okay?
I got you now, buddy.
Can you hear me?
I got you, Dan.
All right,
thanks for holding on. I appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for taking everyone's calls. We really appreciate it, getting all your perspective on things. There's 2 things I wanted to get your perspective on. One, I think the Giants are going to be better this year than they were last year. The Willie Adames signing, Jung-Hoo Lee in center field is not injured and will be starting the year with us. I think those are two huge additions that really transformed the team. And on the pitching side, I know we lost Snell, but if you remember, Snell really wasn't that great in the first half of the season last year. And now it looks like we do have 5 healthy starters to start the year. And in fact, we have a nice, healthy competition for that 5th starter. So I'm not expecting, I think it'll be, it'll take a miracle to get to the playoffs, but I think we're going to have a better team than last year and one that's going to be more fun to watch.
I agree with you, Dan. Those are all positive points. It's what I like what the Giants did under Buster and Bob. They brought in everybody they wanted right in front of spring training. I think last year by bringing a lot of these extra free agents they were signing, Matt Chapman, Soler, and like you said, the big lefty that now is pitching for the Dodgers. I don't want to mention his name. I'm pretty upset at what he's been saying about the Giants. Snell has just been overrated. He had a great second half. He came into spring training thinking that throwing a junior college kids was what he needed, and he didn't pitch well at all, like you said, all the way through the month of May. What you have now is you have a team that's competing. You're building the strength of the team within those walls of that clubhouse. They're having fun doing things, doing different events. They had fun with Verlander on his birthday. These are all things that gel with a team. I agree what you said about Willie Adames, a player that came over here wanting to make this team better, and that left side of the infield. These guys are playing 150 games or more. I think Giants fans are really going to love watching him play, and I'm right there with you. It's a different team. It's a different gel. And let's just hope they continue to keep playing good baseball because Bob Melvin's doing a great job in trying to make this team better on defense, offense. And I'm with you. I think the pitching is going to surprise people.
And, Bill, you can't underestimate what you said about the clubhouse. I was actually one of the people saying, I hope we don't sign Snell after what he did on that last game of the season. And I'm a hockey guy. I'm a big hockey guy, and I know what it means in a locker room. And in hockey, if you would have had a player who was on a contract year and didn't play the last game of the season because they didn't want to get hurt when they were a key part of that team and it was for that team to go to 500, I mean, in hockey, that person would have a mark against them for the rest of their career. I know baseball is different, but for me, I do think, you want to build a clubhouse where everyone wants to go to bat and play for each other because they want to have each other's back. And those are the kind of players you want to build the franchise around.
And don't you think what you just said really talks about Buster Posey and everything you just said? Isn't that the person that you just talked about and you didn't even mention his name and he's now the president of baseball operations? He's a guy that when he talks, everybody listens. He's that quiet leader that everybody wants in your corner. And I think that's what he's making this team. When he talked about signing Willie Adames, he talked to several different people, different coaches, different managers. Everybody said this kid is everything you want in a leader. And he wanted a shortstop. There was no doubt about it. Too many shortstops played last year. Luciano just wasn't that kid that they wanted. And he went out and played his cards right, and he got Willie Adames. And I think that is going to be a big plus, not just in a clubhouse, but also as just a human being in the game of baseball as a veteran. Love the signing like you do. I'm sure Giants fans do too. Matt Chapman's here for many years. Now we just got to get this team playing like they have been this past week. They won 6 games. Twice today coming back from deficits. But, Dan, it's a long season. It's only spring training. But I do like the positive attitude fans are getting. They're jumping on watching these games, listening to these games. And just like you, I think there's a different ray of hope. I really do.
And the last thing I'll leave you with, Bill, is because you mentioned that Buster might be looking to do some more deals. I hope we don't mortgage our future. I don't have unrealistic expectations for this team this year. And I think we need to give these young guys more of a chance to develop. I don't want to see us do what we did with Joey Bart when I think we kind of gave up on him a little bit too soon. There's so many great, talented youngsters, and I'm not saying all of them are going to hit. I don't think they are, but we have to give them a chance to see what they can do within our organization, because I want to at least 2 or 3 of these very young people that we've seen do so well in spring training and in spurts last year during the regular season. They're going to be everyday big time players.
I don't think he's going to mortgage his future.
Right now,
I think he knows. I think he knows the prospect levels, and so many young players are coming and playing these A games today. So many of them played well in Mesa and end up winning that game 8-6. You're seeing young kids that played today. A Bo Davidson, just a great player. A Turner Hill, guys that we don't know about. Is they're next. They're the next stage coming up. Bryce Eldridge is another one. That's what I think Buster Posey wants. Randy Wynn, Ron Wotus to build a future, build within this organization like they had years ago. And if that's what we're seeing, you know he's going to keep building stronger and stronger each year. And next thing you know, you're going to have the Madison Bumgartners, the Brandon Crawfords, guys that have come through the organization that will fill big roles for this team.
Thanks so much, Bill. Looking forward to the season and listening and watching to the games, and then listening to your show after every game.
I appreciate your time, Dan. Thanks again, and I'm looking forward to talking to you as the year progresses also. Great calls right there. So glad I got back on the phone lines and talked to 3 great callers, and I appreciate all of your time holding on for me. And right now we're going to take a break, and I'm going to bring you that Wade Meckler interview coming up next. Really had a nice chat with Wade. Got to know him for a couple years now. Just a kid that's really trying to make it, and he's got so much in his gut that he wants to perform well. And let's see what happens. He was injured earlier today in Mesa. We'll find out more about that in the next few days. But I had a real nice sit down with Wade Meckler, and you're going to hear it next right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
This is the flagship of Giants baseball. Double play! KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the Sports Leader. Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. My guest today was drafted in the 8th round by the San Francisco Giants in 2022. A year later, on August 14, 2023, he made his Major League Baseball debut. A friend of the show, let's bring in Wade Meckler. Wade, how are you?
Good, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good. Boy, you think about that. 1 year drafted, next year you're in the big leagues. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously wasn't expecting it when I got drafted. My goal was to make it up in a few years. But, I performed my way through the minor leagues, and obviously, I was excited and happy to make it up there.
You sure did, and you produced all through the minor leagues, and now you're in spring training once again. You're healthy this year. How's it going so far into spring training of 2025?
Good. I'm feeling good, feeling healthy, which is the most important thing. Swinging feels good. I feel more physical, faster. So, all positive things so far.
So I got to ask you, Wade, I read before you got to spring training that you had some experience at second base that the Giants were thinking about bringing you to the infield. Tell me when that was.
I mean, my entire childhood through high school, even my first year and a half of college, I played in the infield. And then there just happened to be room out in the outfield. So I switched out there just to get some playing time in college, and ended up, all these teams ended up seeing me as an outfielder, not as an infielder.
Have you been taking some reps at second base so far in spring training?
No, I haven't taken any. They had me take reps in the off season in the event that they would potentially need it, but I have not taken any reps in spring training.
Well, let's go back to last year. An injury sidelined you, and sure enough, you had to go back to rookie ball. You went to San Jose, Eugene, Richmond, Sacramento, really battled your way through it. As we talked about being healthy, tell me a little bit about the injury, and tell me how hard it was going through all those different divisions in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I kind of had to do it all over again. I did it in 23, and then having to do it over again in 24 was definitely tough. The last game of spring training, or actually the exhibition game, felt something in my hand on a swing. Didn't feel good, but, didn't think much of it. And then it was kind of one of those things that just didn't really get better. Ended up, getting misdiagnosed a couple of times because there's a lot of small bones and tendons and ligaments and all kinds of stuff in your hand. So part of it was, we spent a long time trying to figure out what it actually was. And then, some time passes there, and then you do figure out what it actually is. And, then you have to start that rehab process. So it was a lot longer process than I was hoping for. I was hoping to be back a lot earlier, but all said and done, I'm healthy now. So I'm moving past it.
That voice you hear on the Extra Inning Postgame Show is Wade Meckler, outstanding outfielder, and as we talked about, maybe some infield down the road, but let's just talk about outfield and outfield defense. One of the biggest things you have is speed, playing the gaps, going down the lines if you're in the corner outfield. How much work do you do in spring training to make that better?
Yeah, a ton of work. We worked a lot on my jumps, especially because, I do have the raw speed to be an elite outfielder. So we're just working on, getting those routes, a lot of the intricacies of the outfield, whether it's sun balls or holding base runners, a lot of the little things that kind of separates guys from being an average outfielder and being an elite outfielder. And then just making the parts of outfield play that my speed plays well into better.
Wade, we do talk about some of the things that happen in the outfield, and you just mentioned it, the ball in the sun, the high sky, the light blue sky. It's so difficult, especially in Arizona, seeing the ball. It's a different type of sky. You say you work on it. Are these things that you're also working about in shading your eyes and doing different things to kind of get that glare off of you?
Yeah, it's more so, because you can't really if you shade it and the ball's in the sun, you're still not going to see the baseball, because if you cover the sun, you're going to cover the baseball as well. So we've been working on just getting those angles it's kind of counterintuitive because as an outfielder, your instinct is to always go to the spot that you think the ball is going to be. But if you got the sun in that spot, then that's not necessarily the best course of action, or maybe you have to almost run away from the ball a little bit to create a different angle, because if the sun's in my eyes in left field and it's not in the center fielder's eyes, then I want to try to create the angle that the center fielder would have seen. So let's say that the sun's to my left, I'm going to run towards the sun to open up that blue sky to my right and find that baseball again.
The one of the other balls that are hit to the outfield, I know you and I talked about this, was the line drive, trying to find out where and how hard it was right at you. And again, you're probably talking about angles, and first step is always back, but sometimes those line drives just fly over your head and really kind of skyway over your head. How do you gauge those?
I think on those line drives, you can kind of take a second because with a lower launch angle, they're probably not going to, go to the wall. So you kind of have a second to figure out if it's in front or behind, typically. If not, one of the things that I was taught was that, if you were sitting on train tracks and a train was coming towards you, it's really hard to gauge the speed of the train. But if you get off to the side of the train, kind of the same thing where it becomes easier. You have a different reference point to decide that speed of that train. So kind of trying to get off the tracks of the ball a little bit, create an angle to the left or to the right to kind of gauge how hard that ball was actually hit.
Yeah, I like that. I like that real well. And now we're talking about outfield throws, a big thing that you do real well, cutting the ball off and making that one throw that hits the cutoff man, or the throw to second base, or even throwing to home. How much time do you work on that, and do you do those in all three outfield positions?
Yes, work on all three. For me, I don't have a great arm. So it becomes more about how quickly can I get rid of the ball. If I'm in left field, you're throwing the ball to Matt Chapman, who's got one of the best arms in baseball. It's better for me to just get rid of the ball as quickly as I can and get the ball into his hands. Kind of same thing in center field, just making sure that balls are on line, and I'm giving my cutoff man a chance to either redirect or let it go through or relay it. The most important thing for me is making sure it's on line and making sure I'm getting rid of it quickly.
Balls in the gap, it's difficult because if you're playing a corner position, you got to make the center fielder understand where the ball is. If he gets to it first, now you're playing center field. You have the captain more look that you're going to go after each thing. How much is that, as you're talking to different outfielders preparing to play corners or even center field, how much of the communication you have to have with other outfielders?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things in baseball that doesn't really change, whether you're playing in college, pro ball, major leagues, whatever it is. There's always a priority hierarchy that never changes. So, you kind of, your outfielders, who's fast and who's not as fast, who's more aggressive towards balls in the gap and who's not. And obviously in the big leagues, it's a lot harder to hear each other. So making sure that you're waving someone off with your arms if you can get camped, if you're having a hard time hearing, and just things like that. But in general, you just know that the center fielder always has priority. If you both call it, center fielder catches it, and then we as outfielders have priority over the infielders.
Wade Meckler joining me for a few more minutes on the Extra Inning postgame show. Let's go to the offensive numbers. You don't strike out a lot. You're a guy that puts the ball in play. When you go in the winter, you're working on that in the cages. When you get to spring training, what are some of the things that you do to make contact, and you're really well at that? I do a lot of work with foam balls. They're a lot lighter and they spin a lot harder. So if I put them in a machine and I turn the spin rate up and set it to a curveball, it's going to move about twice as much as a regular baseball would. So if I can get really good at getting my barrel underneath those curveballs or sliders or whatever it might be, it becomes a lot easier when you do it against a baseball, kind of overtraining it a little bit. And then outside of that, just making sure I stay on top of my swing decisions. You can't hit. It's a lot harder to hit non-strikes than it is to hit strikes. I've always kind of just had the gift of being able to get to fastballs and being able to get to good velocity.
So for me, it becomes more about, am I swinging at strikes and making sure that I'm able to cover the 9 quadrants on things moving away from me, things moving towards me, things of that nature.
Wade, Bob Melvin talks a lot about getting on base, trying to get on the bag and move the line. He also talked about bunting. I know you're a real good bunter. Have you worked on drag bunts, push bunts? What are some of the things that you can talk to the audience about and how to bunt?
The most important thing I'd say is getting your eyes behind the barrel, making sure that the barrel's further away from your eyes. It becomes a lot harder to gauge where your barrel is in relation to the baseball. And part of that with kids, that might come with some fear of the baseball. So, before you do that, you have to get that fear out a little bit because your eyes are right there. And then making sure that you're moving your barrel with your legs and not your arms. So if I go drop my arms to get to a ball that's low, I might go pop it up. Whereas if I use my legs, I'm able to keep my eyes behind that barrel a lot easier. And then I can, kind of guide it and set those angles.
Wade, when I played, Joe Morgan was on my team, and he taught the pitchers to catch the ball. Try to catch the ball with the barrel, and then you can move it to first and third. It really, really opened my eyes up because you always lunge for the ball sometimes when you try to bunt. Do you like that, Annalise?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're stabbing at it again, your barrel moves. It's a lot harder to keep that straight path, and also a lot of times when I'm bunting, I want that bunt to be soft. I want it to be in that no man's land where the third baseman's got to run and go get it, pitcher's got to run to go get it, and catcher's got to run to go get it. When a guy's throwing 90 miles an hour, you just stick that bat out there, and again catch it. That ball's going to come off plenty hard enough to get into that no man's land. Whereas maybe if I am stabbing at it, it might come off a little harder, and it's an easy play for the third baseman.
Well, we talked earlier about playing outfield. Speed is a big part of your game. Stolen base is getting on base. You've pinch ran a lot in spring training so far in 2025. How much do you work on that, and how much do you gauge on the pitcher and some of the information you get from analytics on the stolen base?
Yeah, I mean, most of it's stealing off of pitchers. We've figured out what is close to a 100% stolen base for me based off of what the pitcher's time to home is. So first and foremost, if I see that number from the pitcher, then I'm going because we know that I'm going to be safe. That's one of the things we worked on the most this offseason or this spring training is, we learned kind of recently that I'm among the fastest in baseball based off of, sprint speed data that's been collected over the last, this last season. So kind of trying to take advantage of that a little bit more that, we kind of knew that I could run a little bit, but I think we recently learned that it's up there with the fastest guys in baseball. So really trying to kind of push the envelope a little bit more and take a little more risk on the base paths.
Couple more questions with Wade Meckler on Extra Inning Post-Game Show. Let's get to some fun stuff. What'd you do over the winter? Any vacations? Anything you played golf? Where'd you do? What'd you get?
Most of it was just working out. Went down and saw my hitting guy out in Louisiana. Worked out in Washington State, all that. I'm not a big golfer. I try to stay away from that because I suck at it, and I know that if I give myself an opportunity to try to get good at it, it's going to take up way too much time and way too much money. So I'm going to steer clear of golf. But I did get to Hawaii right off the bat this off season, and I got engaged out there. So
beautiful.
That was the big thing.
Job. Well, I got to ask you one last question, Wade. Is the mustache back for the 2025 season?
It's back. Yeah, it never left. I grew it out in college. I don't know if I'll ever shave it. Maybe if I hit a really, really big slump or something, maybe it'll go. But until that day happens, I think it's here to stay.
Well, it's always a pleasure catching up with you, my friend. Wade Meckler, you're always welcomed on Extra Innings, and we always have a great talk about baseball.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
That was Wade Meckler on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR. The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8.
All right, welcome back
Sports
to the
Leader.
Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. And you know what? I love doing interviews like you just heard with Wade Meckler. And I'm hoping coaches, players, whoever's really watching or listening to the game and listening some of how these pros talk about improving your game, playing the outfield, bunting, making contact. What Wade Meckler just gave you was so much inside information that you can learn from that and try. And when I talk to these players, that's the kind of information I like to bring you. And I think most of you that's listened to my interviews understand the game of baseball better. As an ex-pitcher, I played baseball for over 30 years. And to understand some of the questions that I ask them, those are things that you should gravitate to, listen to. And if you didn't listen to it, go on all KNBR podcast after up, and Kyle will put it on there and listen to it. Make players listen to it. I help so many young players if they just listen to how these players get better in the game. Pitchers, fundamentals, all different things. Just listen to absorb it, because there's so much information from these big leaguers that you can learn and get better with, and I hope you do that. Today, the Giants won a doubleheader coming into Mesa. They were down 6-3. They came back with 5 runs in the top of the 9th inning and won 8-6 on a lot of young players. And this Savalas kid is just a great player from Puerto Rico, 22 years old. He hit a 3-run bomb in the 9th inning to win it. 4 for 6 so far in big league games. He's somebody that you're going to definitely keep an eye on. And then in Scottsdale, they were down 3-0. They came back and won that game 7-4. The pitcher, Spencer Bivens, of course, he was with the Giants last year, is really putting numbers up for the orange and black so far in the spring, and he pitched 2 1/3 innings, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and no walks so far in the spring. He hasn't walked a hitter. Landon Roop struggled a little bit in Chicago, pitching against the Cubs today. He really was throwing well. Today, he had the A lineup in there, and he ended up giving up 7 hits, 5 earned runs, but he's still got dynamic stuff, and we're going to find out if he fits into that 5th starting spot for the Giants, as he is contending with Hayden Birdsong, Harrison, and I keep throwing this name out there, Keaton Wynn, and he's starting to come around. So a lot of competition left before we get to March 27th, opening day. Coming up next, I sit down with a very good friend of mine. I've known Irwin Hagar for many years, and of course he is the play-by-play announcer for the Spanish side radio. And when you look at what they just did this year, they signed a 3-year contract, and they're going to be airing 162 games for the Gigantes. And I love that when I talk to Irwin. Of course, he grew up in Guatemala. He ended up learning English, coming over to the Columbia School of Broadcasters, and learned a lot about being a broadcaster. You're going to learn a little bit about Irwin. Just a super, super nice guy, and does so good for the Spanish players as well as the Spanish community. So relax, enjoy this one, because Irwin Hagar is going to come up, and we're going to talk a lot of baseball and how he got to know the game of baseball and how he learned it and how he brings it out to Giants fans. That's going to come up next right here on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. Irwin Hagar coming up next right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR. You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. I'm honored to have my guest coming up next, a three-time World Series champion. He also is a three-time Northern California Emmy Award winner. He's starting his 29th full season with the San Francisco Giants as the Giants Spanish broadcaster. And the big number here, 39 years of veteran of Bay Area sports broadcasting. Let's bring in my good friend, Irwin Hagar. Irwin, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Bill. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Big numbers right there I'm throwing at you. 39 years in sports broadcasting. It all started all the way back when you went to Columbia School of Broadcasting. Tell me the road that you were on.
Man, 39 years is easy to say, but when you reflect on it, you know, I feel old. It hasn't been easy. Obviously, along the way, I have people that have faith in me that I could do the job because, you know, I started in radio in '87 out of Columbia School of Broadcasting just as a midnight DJ and the manager where the Oakland A's were being broadcasted. I guess he saw potential in me because, I mean, first of all, you know, back in the day, there was no GPS. You know, you have to really know your way around, go east, go west. I did not know that. So for the job interview, I was late an hour and a half. So I reflect on that, and I think to myself sometimes either they were very desperate to get a midnight DJ or the manager that hired me saw potential. But, you know, along the way you have those opportunities, and you have to remember that somebody gave you that opportunity, and you got to make good on it. And I think I have. And it started there. Then, you know, I went to do baseball with the Oakland A's. Then in '98, I moved from the A's to the Giants, and the same thing started, getting the opportunity to prove myself. And, you know, one of the things that my father said to me was that whenever I showed up to work, show up like if it's my first day of work. And I have never felt comfortable thinking that I have made it, thinking that, oh, my God, I'm here, now I can relax. No, because there was always work to do. There was always something that you would learn, whether it's baseball broadcasting, football, or hockey, or anything that you do, you know, in PR, translating for the players. There's always something that you learn. There are always adjustments that you have to make along the way. And you know, obviously now with the Giants there, I have had support from everybody, you know, Mario, Larry, Jason Pearl, Shayna, Matt Chisholm. I mean, I could go on, and I guess I can just say that I have had support from the entire organization to be there this long and continue doing what I love.
Well, Irwin, the road continues. In the middle of February, the San Francisco Giants signed a 3-year extension with Laser Media to cover all 162 games, all of them on the road as well as home. You talked about it in 1998 when you started. They covered 162 games. Since then, 2023, 127, 2024, 137. And I just love Northern California, from Sacramento to Salinas to Fresno to Reno. The Latino fans are loving this, and Giants fans come out in orange and black all the time, and your voice is going to be on 162 games. What do you think of that nice new contract?
God help those fans. They're going to have to deal with my voice for 162 games. You know, again, what I just said, it makes me appreciate what I have because it hasn't been easy to get back to 162. Obviously, the economics of baseball is something that sometimes I try to learn, but it's hard. But at the end of the day, it shows that, you know, the Giants are fully committed to the community, the Hispanic community. We found a partner in Laser Media that believes in the product, and they sign up in doing 162. It's great. It's just not me. It's Tito Fuentes that will work with me on the home games. Carlos Orellana, who has been traveling with me and doing road games, he will continue doing the same thing, going on the road and, participating in during the home games. So yeah, I am very happy with the news. And obviously now we just got to make sure that we keep it, that we don't go backwards, that we continue going forward.
Irwin Hagar is joining me on the Extra Inning post-game show. Irwin, diversity has been going on in baseball more and more in the last probably 5 to 10 years with Japanese players coming over. Of course, Korea baseball with Jung-Hoo Lee. You are the Spanish translator for the San Francisco Giants. Every time you hear interviews with some of the Latin players, you jump right in there. Is that difficult for you to try to gauge between the player and the question and try to make that player understand the question and understand what he's going to, how he's going to answer that question?
It's not difficult, and I'll tell you why. Because Spanish is my first language. I came here at a young age when I was 12. In my house, my mom did not speak English, so I had to obviously learn the English language. I had to speak to her in Spanish. Going to school, we had friends that spoke Spanish, so I was able to keep my Spanish. And now with doing the interpreting, it's easy for me because I can just speak to them. I don't make it difficult. There's a way to speak proper Spanish, and there's a way to just, I guess for a better lack of word, just come down to the player's level and not make it so difficult so they can understand. At the end of the day, it's baseball what we're talking about. We're not talking about the climate change. We're not talking about the economy. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about what they understand. So it's easy for me, and obviously it helps. I think we talked about this last year. It helped that I've been here for a long time. The players have seen me, so that is an automatic comfort level for them.
Well, two players we talked about, learning them and them learning you, just like you talked about, Johnny Cueto and Pablo Sandoval, two players that really did not speak much English when they first got here, but boy, as the years went on, they accepted it and learned it. This is what is an achievement from you as well as these players to want to learn the English language. Tell me a little bit about these two players that you have really, really loved to work with.
Well, Pablo, who was first, obviously I translated for him before I was given the official title of being the team interpreter. And I did it at the beginning, but Pablo made an effort to learn the English language. And all of a sudden, he started doing the interviews on his own without needing me. And that's one thing that I tell all the players now is like, I'm here to help you if you need me, but I'm not going to stand in your way if you want to try yourself. I will support you. So you want to speak English, do it, and I'll be next to you. And if you need help with a word here and there, I will go ahead and help you. And that happened. Susan was talking to Annie Romero, and he was doing the interview in English. He got stuck in a couple of words or trying to put his thoughts together. He then would ask me to help him, and that's what I'm there for. Johnny, on the other hand, he does speak English and more than he let on, but Johnny was different. Johnny, he asked me in his own ways. He's like, "This is your job, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And they're paying you to be the interpreter. And I said, "Yeah, they are." "Okay, then. So go ahead and translate for me." So he would never tried to do interviews in English. However, when the recorders were off, when it was just like off the record type of conversation, yeah, he would speak English. But I guess he was very concerned about saying the wrong thing in English, so he'd rather express himself in Spanish and let me do the translation.
Well, Ern, you can always find out that when the questions are being asked, you're standing next to them and they're nodding their head or saying no before they even answered the question, and you knew they were understanding the English part. But I see what they're saying about maybe you're uncomfortable in saying in English and you want to display it in his way of saying it, and he says it to you where he understands the question, but maybe just a little nervous the way to answer it.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's like we have Luis Matos, Marco Luciano, just to mention two of them. They can do the interview in English if it's a one-on-one. But if it's a group setting, it's like they feel a little bit shy. So then they use me. But I've seen Alex, I've seen Susan, even Andy Bergley talk to these guys like off the record, one-on-one, and they carry a conversation. It is just a matter of their comfort level.
Couple more questions with Irwin Hagar on the Extra Inning postgame show. I talked about 29 years joining the Giants broadcast booth. I have to ask you, what is the love of baseball that brings you back every year and you're so excited when spring training starts?
I just fell in love with the game of baseball. We have to keep in mind, I came from Guatemala. That's soccer over there. They don't play baseball. Maybe now they're playing some. So when I came here to the United States, my stepdad made an effort to teach us the culture. Obviously, he forced us, and he says, hey, look, you got to speak English. You're going to be here. You need to speak English. You will one day realize that being bilingual is going to be a benefit to you. And then I started watching baseball. I started watching football. And once I went to high school, I started playing baseball with the kids, and I fell in love with it. And once you start getting into the game and learning the little details of the game, you have no choice but to fall in love. And then now it's the same thing. I don't think about people listening to me on the radio. I don't think about, oh, my family's going to be proud of me. I don't even think about if I'm making a good living or not. But I just love the game of baseball. I love hanging out with the guys. I love coming every morning and just hanging out in the clubhouse.
Well, Irwin, we got to finish up with this, Irwin. It's Tito Fuentes sitting next to you, one of the greatest friends of both of you and me. He's got electric stories. Tell me a good one about him, Irwin.
Let's see. I'll tell you 2010. It's one that, I mean, I have so many, right? But 2010, Tito starts crying. Takes off the headsets. We go to commercial break, and he tells me, what I couldn't do as a player, I have done as a broadcaster, which was win a World Series. And that's Tito for you. He gets emotional for things that you would wonder why. But, you know, that's another reason why I love baseball.
A great combination with you two in a booth, and it's always great talking to you two together because the stories, the nonverbals, the eye contact, you guys know each other so well, and it's a pleasure having you on once again, and I appreciate your time, Irwin.
All right, thank you.
That was Irwin Hagar on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
From the mound to the mic, this is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him by saying to your smart speaker, play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Giants winners today in Scottsdale 5-1 over the Oakland A's. Some really good pitching, some great hitting, and they got a win. And that was their fourth win of the spring. They're 4-6-2. Tomorrow they're going to do it right over again. Right here you can listen to the game, the Chicago White Sox against the San Francisco Giants at 1:05. That's right, 1:05. Daylight savings time. Move your clocks up. We are back on the same time with the state of Arizona. I'm so happy to hear that. All right, today I want to thank both of my guests, Nick Ahmed and John Brebbia. Some great interviews right there. And I want to thank the two people running the show, Greg Silver, of course, my producer, Kyle and Raph, helping me out on phone calls. And I want to thank you for listening, supporting me. We're going to do it again right here tomorrow, right after the game. Extra Innings with Bill Laskey will be back on. So have a great night. Be safe, be well. And overall, the Giants winners today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
It's another great outing for the righty on your home of San Francisco Giants baseball. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. Play KNBR on iHeartRadio.
Support our troops. We hear it practically every day. It's something we all agree on. Whenever and wherever the men and women of our armed forces are called, we send our support with them. it's something we all do. And supporting the USO is how it's done. The USO receives no government funding and depends entirely on the generosity of the American people. To find out more, call us at 888-USO-5566 or visit our website at uso.org.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Hey, hop on the handset.
Sure thing. Oh.
Because sounds like you're, much better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we lost an hour of sleep, man. So, I was tipsy-turvy, and